Okay, guys, hello. Here we are back to you, and we have the next panel today. How to create a blockbuster game in new realities, tips and tricks. And I'm really happy to introduce colleagues at today's panel discussion. Roee Anderson,
Yes.
programming from OVIVO Games. Nebih from Garawell Games.
Hey there.
And Roee Raz from OVIVO Games.
Hey, hello. Nice to be here.
Thank you. And me, I'm Alex. I'll be a moderator. I do work with games as well, doing playtests with target users. So I'm really proud to speak to you today, guys. Thank you for coming. I would appreciate if you can tell a couple of words about yourself, introduce you shortly. What does your company do, and what's unique about it, and how have you ever dealt with a blockbuster game? Who can begin?
So, I will start.
Yeah, okay.
Cool. So pleasure to be here. Thank you, Alex. So I'm Roee Raz, founder and CEO at OVIVO Games. I'm a veteran within the gaming industry, more than 10 years of experience in user acquisition, monetization, BI. Few words about OVIVO. So OVIVO Games is an innovative publishing house that is specializing in hyper-casual games. Alex, you asked to tell about what's unique about the company. So we have a very unique publishing approach that is very different from any other, what I call mainstream publisher, that actually we actually focus like on generating profits from games rather than necessarily making a blockbuster or a hit game. So despite not having yet a blockbuster game that reached to the tops of the charts, all of our games generating profits and making like our partners or developers satisfied about it. Of course, it's on the way to make a blockbuster game. It's not that we are not aiming for that, but we just say that there is a lot of opportunities on the way. It's not a black or white world, like or blockbuster game or your game is nothing. There's a lot of gray part that we are leveraging and generating profits on that gray area, aiming to bring the games to the top of the charts at the end of the journey.
Cool. In terms of business, you are focused on the main targets, making money. That sounds really cool.
Exactly. We sacrifice the quick scale for more profits. So that's the difference.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, who's next?
Should I? At least on my screen, maybe I'm next.
Go ahead.
That sounds super cool. I mean, focusing on making money sounds like a good idea overall. I'm Riley. I'm the CEO of OVIVO Games, and we make casual puzzle games. But I think what's interesting to say is that we used to make hyper casual games. So we did a pivot like 6 months ago, due to several reasons. Not that we don't like hyper casual anymore, we really like it. But for us, it made more sense to switch into puzzle games. Our biggest hit so far has been ABC Runner, which was first on the US charts around a year, 1.5 ago. So I would say that's a blockbuster. And also, I guess part of the reason why we moved over to casual, because I mean, once you have achieved that in hyper casual, then of course you can keep on going. Like Nebih, you guys, you have been on the charts a couple of times, right? And it's really cool. But we also come from casual. We used to work at Tactile, the whole team. So yeah, for us it made sense to do the switch. And I think what's very unique about us is the fact that we have brought this agile approach that we have in hyper casual to casual production. So we're actually going in soft launch already after 2 weeks with games that has very, very high revenue potential. So we call it Casual 2.0. So I guess that's what's unique about OVIVO Games.
Thank you so much. Impressive, really. Nebih?
Hi again. I'm the manager and founder of Garawell Games. We're a mobile studio based in Istanbul. as you may all know, and with 11 developers and designers, we are a team of 11 developers and designers. We try to bring out unique ideas. Mainly, it's a cliche thing, but we seriously highly depend on unique ideas in the hyper casual market. That's a common goal of the market, actually, and we always test new prototypes, and we sometimes test some silly stuff just to test it, because it's very different from all others in the market. So we try to be unique in that part. But I would say that our biggest difference and the unique part about our company is that we once we have a soft launch of a game, once we crack the CPI and early retention for a game, we spend a lot of time on it, and that's what we did with Bridge Race and Color Match as well. We spent a tremendous amount of time on updates, A/B tests, and improvement of the game, bug fixes, everything. And we try to bring a clear experience, clean experience to the end user. And this is actually parallel to, as Roy explained as well, bringing high profit for the game, because at the end of the day, if you increase the LTV, you definitely have a long run with your game. That's what happened with Bridge Race, and from the beginning of launch in 2021 March until today, just last month, it was in the top 10 of most downloaded games last month, and it's over 1.5 years now that the game was launched. Last year, it was the most downloaded hyper casual game. So we seriously work on the updates a lot. Just recently, we have left doing intense updates, but still working on it. And with Color Match as well, we tried to do it. And 2 flagships of ours were, I believe, we are content with the updates and overall performance of our games. And that's all I can say about ourselves. And of course, we are working on the next big hit. Let's hope for it.
Sounds really cool. Okay, another strong analytical approach, and also stated the ideation process should be pretty strong in your company. I would love to hear about that a little later today, because ideation process is what's interesting for so many developers. And where do you have ideas? How do you inspire yourself? So we'll reach it back during today's discussion. Thank you so much. That was really impressive. I really feel lucky to be among you guys. And before we begin the discussion of the creation of the blockbuster and new realities, I would appreciate if we can define what are new realities, what has changed, what makes you look for changes.
So I think that we need to understand first that in the new realities, we game developers, game publishers, we're actually competing against giants like Netflix, Disney, like entertainment platforms. We're not competing against other gaming studios or gaming publishers. Like the users that at the end choosing to spend their time on many different entertainment platforms, and we as a gaming in the gaming industry, definitely one of their choices. So once we understand that, we can definitely take some strategic actions. For example, look at our games as kind of platforms, like to add to the games more meta features based on the satisfying core game loop, of course. I mean, once the core game loop is satisfying enough, this is the time to add more features, to collaborate with more like third parties solutions, to add more value to users. So this is my 2 cents about this. And of course, in the new realities, we're also facing, especially in hyper casual, we see that Google just changed their policy regarding ads. So the user experience in terms of the ads experience will be improved, and it's for good. I mean, it's better user experience for the users, which means that they will bottom line spend more time in the game, and there's a lot of ways to monetize them as they stay longer time in the game. So.
Thank you. You've mentioned cooperating with the third parties on Meta. Could you please give an example? What is it?
Sure. I can tell you that I have a very good example. We are now integrated with a startup called Dots Echo, where we offer users to play the game, and once they reach to level 50, they plant a real tree in the real world. Okay, so think about that. We didn't develop this. I mean, we collaborate with Dots Echo in this case, which is an Israeli startup. And by just integrating that, we are still analyzing the performance and making sure that it's worth it. But and of course, and it's based on A/B testing with this feature and without this feature, and then we see the effect. But it's coming from the understanding that the game is a platform, and we want to offer the user more value. So yeah,
really impressive. Thank you so much. Thank you, Riley.
Yes, yeah. So I guess it's all been said, but I guess by both of you. But the key, what I hear, is LTV, right? That in the end, like the changes as far as I see them over like the last 1.5 years or 2 years, like it's all the privacy things, like the market, in my experience, have changed a lot, right? And I think this high LTV is key to win the market, as both of you says. And focusing a bit, and as you say as well, Roee, I think it's actually good for the users, because in the end you will get better experiences or more innovative, as Nebih says, right? Trying something that's just not out there yet. So I think that has changed a lot for us. One thing that has changed a lot is also the investment market. We're aiming very much to like go on this rapid race strategy, right? Of really expanding. And that's also one of the reasons why we switched from hyper casual. We found it very hard to raise money for a hyper casual studio unless you wanted to become a publisher, which was not really our vision, right? So I think that's some big changes I have seen. I like the whole data privacy, the focus on LTV, and then the investment market also seems to have changed a bit, not just due to this, but just overall, right? Like the status of the world.
Thank you so much. Nebih?
I totally agree with what has been said by Roee and Riley. Like the LTV is the biggest challenge in order to crack for a blockbuster game nowadays. As we may know, 2 years ago it was really different. You would try to find the best CPI, and it was done then. Like nobody thought about LTV that much, because it was like after standard phase of development for global launch, you would crack this standard LTV that we were always talking about, like around $1, sometimes exceeding $1, sometimes $2 for a hyper casual game. That was great. But nowadays, those games that we were talking about, which had $2 of LTV, are dropping down to $1, and that's not a good thing if you're talking about scaled CPI at the end of the day. So apart from that, I would like to bring out another topic about this what's new today, by bringing up what we got as a limitation. We still have the mobile devices. We still use the Unity engine. We still have this landscape mode, which we cannot crack in any way. So we have to be aware of these limitations at the end of the day, which brings us to again and again innovation. Like everybody's trying to find this new unique idea. As Roee gave an example, like planting a tree is an amazing idea. I believe it's very different from what others are doing, but you never know what the new thing is going to be. So always trying to catch this new idea will, at the end of the day, bring out the profit too, because we know that even though there's IDFA and there's limitations for the ad networks and all, people will play these games at the end of the day if they find them to be entertaining. And that's what we should focus, and that's what we should not deviate ourselves to other stuff, but always focus on this part in order to get the blockbuster game that we are looking for.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And you mentioned LTV decrease and CPI increase. Why do they change? What's the reason for that? What changed?
It's related with the ad networks, as Roee and Riley mentioned. Like recent updates in the platforms App Store and Google Play have been affecting these ad networks a lot, like the ad transparency and IDFA is like, if you get into question of tracking when you launch the game, and many people are choosing not to track the game, those users who click on not tracking will not make the standard profit you were always getting from that player. You see what I mean? Like that's changing the environment, and new ways are on the way, but this is like a trembling times for the networks to say in the correct way.
Also, I mean, at least from our perspective, right? Because we are now working this like hyper casual and casual, and have like are very much in both worlds. What we hear from our casual friends is that before the IDFA, they were all targeting actions inside of them. They're like making UA campaigns and targeting specific actions, like I want you to use money here, do this. So their CPIs were super high, like maybe $80 or $20 to buy a player, right? And they cannot do that anymore. So right now, I'm competing against King when I'm buying my players, because they don't have any way to like. And what I think is annoying, at least for us, is that they're not even interested in buying everyone, right? They want quality players, but they can just not do that separation right now. So I think it's the fact that we're all competing on equal terms, which is, just different.
I would like to add that when we are talking about increasing CPIs, we are talking mainly about the US market. I mean, because everyone competing in this market, and I would like to offer a different perspective here. The market, that there are so many other markets where you can generate lifetime value, or average revenue per user, or lifetime value that is higher than the cost per install there, and then generate the profits on India users, Brazilian users, Argentinian, Philippines, so many other markets where you can increase your user base, learn from the data based on A/B tests, improve the creatives, and scale to more and more and more markets. And then you are not like you're against this crazy competition on the US users. Of course, in order to make a blockbuster game, no chance. Of course, you have to scale in the US. That's for sure, but not necessarily as a first action.
Thank you so much for adding. Just to double check. Sorry, is the tracking problems the main source of the LTV decrease, or is it something else influencing market much at the moment?
I believe that's part of it, but there are other issues in the market as well. Like with the new release of the SDKs updates, I mean, we are also seeing performance decreases in the mobile devices sometimes, and also like the bidding changes, as Riley said. Like we are now competing against casual games, and that's also a very serious thing, because as we mentioned, we are a studio of 11 people, but considering that we are like fighting against a studio of 200 or 300 people, that's like crazy. And I guess the balances are differing, and like many people are mentioning, some of the hyper casual games have to become casual games in order to survive, and like by playtime, by retention, we should adapt to that environment in order to still be profitable. But overall, I can't really say what the issue is apart from the last updates on the IDFA, to be fair.
Yeah, and don't you also, I think it's always dangerous to say that it's this one thing. I mean, the world is just never as black and white, right? In a way, but I agree very much with Nebih. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, is there any difference in those challenges for studios of different size, let's say for indies, mid-size, or big companies? Because at the moment, you mentioned that you are in one market, and Riley mentioned that at the moment, most of the players are in equal conditions, competing for the market. are any challenge difference for companies dependent on the size of the company?
I can say that. Sorry, I will take it. So I can say that first, we are a kind of small or medium company. We're 10 employees in our publishing house, which is relatively very low headcount compared to the mainstream big publishers. So of course that big publishers have a very different business model than a publisher with a small amount of like a small team, like more startup mode. Obviously, the mainstream publishers will focus on blockbuster games only. They put all their effort. They are receiving like hundreds of new prototypes or games a month, and they obviously will focus on the ones that can generate that has the best potential to hit the charts. On our side, when we are like kind of a small, medium business, we are more like our business model is more aligned with the studios that we publish. I mean, think about it. The studios that we publish are kind of the same size of ours, plus minus. So in this case, our objectives and goals are aligned. And this help us to actually develop what we call the Game Changer program, which is our unique publishing approach that, as mentioned, help us focus on profits rather than scale. And so in this case, the size are kind of our advantage. To reach our goals and publish the top developers and studios worldwide, while offering them an offer that is aligned with their objectives most of the time. Most of the time, the studio want to generate profits, not necessarily generate millions of dollars in the top of the charts. And of course, we aim to that point. But before that, why not generating profits?
Thank you so much, Riley.
I think there's, obviously, of course, there's different challenges depending on the size of the studio. I think taking a concrete example from our perspective, we started out 3 people, like the founders, right? And back then, I guess some of the challenges, you're not that many people, right? So making something very big and you have the skills you have. For example, we have never been super strong on art. So we were not able to make fancy 3D models ourselves and stuff, but been very aligned on what we wanted to do. I think that's some of the strengths really in hyper casual. These small teams that work very well together and work just super aligned. And the good thing about being 3 people, there's not really any bureaucracy. I think now we're 10, right? And there's other, like you have to handle people are getting kids and people's parents die or all sort of like personal stuff as well, right? And actually working together as a team. I think we've managed quite well to go from that very small size, but now we use like a whole Monday tool and have everything streamlined. Before it was more, we're 3 people, right? We have a Trello board, we know exactly where we're going, and that's just it. So definitely, and other burn rate. I think for us, one thing is more think about the burn rate, right? If you're 3 people and 10 people, you really need to, especially when we have moved into this casual, really need to be fast at validating whether this prototype is innovative enough or has higher LTV enough, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nebih.
I'd like to give an example to this actually. Like from the past, we know that the old games, sometimes the big blockbusters, if you can call them, like Tetris, were developed by one developer only. And coming back to today, yeah, we have the hyper casual games which are developed by only one developer sometimes in the back. But now the meta in the games are really important, and that's what is making the game profitable sometimes. And we see the IAPs. IP rates increasing in hyper casual games, sometimes battle passes being introduced in hyper casual games, which means that apart from bringing up a really outstanding idea, the profit of the game is also dependent upon the meta in the game that's implemented. And if you have a huge company which can which has an experience of how to make a game profitable back in with other games, then the new idea can also be profitable with the meta integrations in the game as well. So I think that's what's making the difference nowadays. And we are not recently seeing that many games which are developed by only 2 people, 3 people studios, or just one developer. So I think that may answer the question, right?
I totally agree with Nebih, and I can tell you on the publisher perspective, because we understand that what we do is that we develop like a lot of generic modules that can be integrated to many different core game loops or core gameplays. And by A/B testing and by our knowledge, we already know what the KPI we want to improve, and then we add the right meta feature to that game, and it goes like this. And the execution is extremely important here, like to execute it fast, to add the right meta feature to the right core game loop, and then I totally agree, the LTV increase.
That's what I love about hyper casual, like the whole, and we believe you can have that approach in casual, that like the machine thinking, right? That you become for each game, each module you make, you become stronger and stronger, and you have more and more possibilities, and you gain more and more know-how, right? So for the next game, this correlation between this battle pass having in this section, right, with these visualization works very well for these type of players, and it's really cool.
I think it's like a natural selection for all industries, all newly rising industries. Actually, like we know that hyper casual is there for the last maybe at most 5 or 6 years. So the industry is actually shaking the companies a lot, and there are new companies coming up. Some of them going away, like bankrupt, if it's correct way to say. And we see that the companies who are still there, still at the top, are will have to adapt and become better at what they are doing. And by better, I mean putting aside the experiences from past profitable products. So as Roy also mentioned, like we have to stick with what we are doing in the previous games for our next game, and that can become a template. We use frameworks for our next games, so that we know how to make the level passages, how to make the chest, how the setting button is always situated at the same position, and how you get the IAPs, and what's attractive about selling the IAPs. Those stuff will become a model for our next games as well. And the companies who are able to adapt to these changes will be the ones to stay for the next big thing. Who knows, maybe a next device that we don't know about, and we'll have to adapt to the gaming industry.
Very cool. So the takeout is templating and creating the Premade Solutions is very helpful in the industry. From my side, I must admit, users love when they also get educated and familiarized with certain solutions. So they expect to have some standard solutions in games. Of course, they want innovations from games to be new. So games bring something new, interesting, unexpected. But in the most of places not related to core loop or meta, they expect the game to be more or less predictable, more or less familiar to them, because they are educated from the previous experience. And this, what you discover in template, is really, really very cool for the whole market. Okay. Another question: do you use to monitor the market? Because it takes time to have an eye on someone else, and not spend your time on ideation and creativity. If yes, how exactly do you monitor the market? How do you dig the data? How do you process it? How do you present it? In which form, and to whom, and how often? Can you please tell a little bit about that?
Sure. So we monitor the market like crazy, to be honest. We have like our own Slack platform, Slack workspace, where we get notifications about every event you can think about in the stores. new game that just launched, new game that scaled lately, and from that point we mark these games and then we analyze them and like split them into many categories. Like what is the genre? Like is it a puzzle game, craft game, arcade idle, IO, action, whatever, and then subgenres like okay, if it's an action game, so it's a runner game or more like real life or shooting game. And of course, we split it into the different game mechanics and even camera angle, if it's a character or some abstract main character. So we take all this data, analyze it, and splitting it into this all subcategories, and generating insights about or like prediction what will be the next trend. We don't believe at looking at what is right now the top charts. I think that if you look at the top chart at this moment, you're pretty much looking at the past. I mean, it will take you so much time to close this gap that the trend will be changed. So that's why I think it's super important to monitor the market in such a way. And we also believe in sharing this information. So once we have like insights reports, we share it with our community, with the developers that we publish. So yeah, to help them actually, bottom line, to follow the trend.
Very cool. If this is not a secret, could you please name the instruments you use to integrate like that? So you get notifications to Slack. How do you organize it on the technical level?
I can't answer it because our CTO might. I don't know how our CTO do it. I just enjoy from the result.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I love that.
I just raised the need. He implemented it.
Exactly. It's about focus, right?
Best way to avoid a question.
For us, the whole research has changed a little bit. I mean, in hyper casual, we had this spy tool, mobile action, was it called that? I think. But someone used PETA, and there's a lot of different ones, right? Where you can track, as Rose said, a lot of things, impression of what's going on. And we actually looked a bit at the market as well. But what we do now in casual is that we have taken a ton of sensor tower data from all the casual genres and like analyzed installs over time, like the longevity, like how popular is this game over time. Then the revenue over time, how much money is it grossing? Does it keep going up the curve, or does it like stagnate or decline? And then revenue per install to get an idea of how purchase strong, you can say, in the way the market is. And then we did this thing, because in casual, I mean, there are tools, but they're super expensive compared to hyper casual. So we actually made our own tool called Dandelion. Like, so in Unity, we extract all of the sensor tower data and have analyzed as well, like the games where have they innovated. And so we have this tool we can look into as like, for example, when you're making a puzzle game, is it a good idea to have a magic theme on a line connector, depending on like how red, blue is that market and stuff. So we still use it a lot, both when creating the specific concepts, but also in the decision making on the way, just to know, like if we have decided to innovate on the visuals, we shouldn't innovate on the mechanic if it's not, So it's I really like it.
By the way, how much time do you spend on digging data and analyzing it?
We use quite a lot of time, I would say. I mean, one thing is coming up with a specific concept. In casual, I think you analyze even more. But then once you have decided that, since we work still agile, we start the production with, let's say, the first 10 levels, and then there's a lot of mapping. These casual games are super big, so it's like mapping all features, all flows, all animation, and if you need to re-theme it and put new things. So I would say quite some time, maybe 10-15% of the entire. It's hard to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Roy, and what about you? How much time do you spend on analysis?
So all the technical side with the Slack channel and everything, it goes automatically. But I must say that all the drill down into this granularity of splitting it to camera angle, character, subgenre, it's a manual process that managed by our product team. So I would say that it's like say 2 hours a week, something like that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nebih. The same question to you regarding data digging and analysis and presenting.
We actually expose ourselves as usual to all the Sensor Tower, Epany, and even Storglight data. And also, I believe that there are trends out there before becoming a game that we should follow. Not talking about likes of Squid Game, which made a top chart games in the market, but failed in the long run. Obviously, from day one it was obvious. But what I mean is like there's a term called TikTokable for some games creatives now. So we have to be aware of what audience we are targeting, and by audience I mean a huge chunk of like from 13-year-olds to 65 plus, as usual at networks. Like I try to expose our team to and myself to all the social media, not just the media that's talking about games like TikTok and Reddit and Instagram. Even if I look at Instagram, it's an Instagram full of games. Like I follow some hashtags there, and I think I'm not going to give you an exact amount of time for this exposure, but it's like whole day of my life. Like sometimes I just have a look and try to enjoy, and at the same time try find out after a dinner, for example. I just scroll down and see what's new out there, and not just the new games, but as I said, new trends on social media. And for this reason, I believe it's much like coming up with a new song. Like it's a form of art to me, like bringing up a new game idea, because at the end of the day you have to expose yourself a lot to this logic to correct the next thing. So you have to always expose yourself to these things, and data is already visible on Epany and Sensor Tower as much as possible. Of course, there's like pro versions of these which give you more access to the deeper data, and we try to analyze, for example, the IAP revenue percentages on the overall profit of games, which is, I think, kind of important in hyper casual as well, because IAPs are becoming more important every day. We try to always find a way to increase our rate of IAPs in the overall profit as well for our games. So yeah, overall, I think I could say we use Discord, Slack, like Roy said, and Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, whatever is out there that's going to help us,
Thank you so much. Let's get back to the ideation process, because digging data, analyzing it, and ideation are closely related. Could you please tell a couple of words, maybe, regarding your ideation process? What do you do? How do you do this? Maybe you have some special approaches, instruments, maybe methodology. Just what do you do?
Sure. I think the best way to again, connected to what I last mentioned, like we try to expose ourselves to these social medias, like I mentioned, Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, and I always think that the next unique thing should have a unique mechanism. By mechanism, I'm not talking about art or anything, because we know how to do 3D art or good graphics, but what we become more professional at is the new and unique mechanism. So we always try to find this new unique mechanism. And there, even if I, as an example, if I see a rope being pulled by a wheel, for example, I try to come up with an idea of a game where the rope can be pulled by a wheel, for instance. Like whatever I see on the image in the social media, I try to make it a game which can work in the hyper casual environment. And I believe that watching out for the new hits is not going to give you the next hits idea, as Roy mentioned, but we also have to know what's been done before in order to see what we can do as next thing. So I really believe that some studios are missing the point by coming up with something new that they think, but it's actually been done before. And maybe we have also faced this issue as well. We have come up with a game idea which we thought was really unique, but at the end of the day we saw that it was actually launched 2 years ago by a publisher, by a big publisher, which failed at the end of the day by just, I don't know, 100k downloads. It's not a big fail, but still at the end of the day it's not going to be a blockbuster like we mentioned. So knowing what's been done before is really helpful in that aspect. That's what
I totally agree with Nebih here, and I think that you must, when you look at the top charts and you play these successful games, if you ask yourself why they are so successful, what is so satisfying about them, what's so appealing, then it helps you, to bring new ideas, and also to think about, like, I love to see the combination of two successful mechanics combined in one new game that is successful. I love and hate this moment. I love it because it's brilliant. I hate it because I didn't think about it myself. But it's really great. Yeah.
I totally agree. I definitely know that feeling. Even I hacked, and it was so annoying because my MasterCard got canceled 2 times from the bank because I hacked my phone. So I'm on the US App Store. I'm located in Scandinavia, Denmark, right? And then you're not allowed to have a US profile where you're on the App Store if you don't have a US MasterCard. And yeah, but I had to do it because I agree so much that you need to see what's out there, right? And the inspiration, both in the games and in the world around you. In casuals, it's very much the same. I think what you're trying to say to be is like, it needs to be like the design needs to come from somewhere. Like at least we try to talk a lot about like the amount of innovation you do. If it's like 100% innovation, I might just send out a app that just has a black screen, right? That's super new. I mean, the chance of it working might not be so big.
There was a game called Yellow, by the way, if you remember. I don't know, like
only just
yellow balloons.
So I mean, it can work, right? But I think it's just at least being aware of. I mean, for me, I think there's the amount of risk you're taking will get higher if you go very, very far away from anything that's ever been out there before, right? Or at least of the emotion of it. And that's also what we're trying to like to bridge what's already out there in casual, but to give this like hyper casual spirit of we need something new. We need to challenge the market a bit. There are so many experiences not made yet for the players that love these experiences, right? And I mean, that's what we all do. And we do a lot of, I think it's a lot of the same things with tracking, and we build like a whole dashboard where we can make sure which game we have made, and we also have started now to play a lot of the games in hand. I don't know if you guys do that as well, but if you come up with a concept, we try to make sure whether we can play it before making it. For example, we came up when it was still happening with this emoji runner, where you had to guess an emoji and then you run further. And we tried just playing it by phone, so I could just say, Roe, an animal in the north. Then you need to find an animal in the emoji keyboard, right? And then, you come, and we're competing against each other. And I think you can test some of the concepts out also on pen and paper before making them to already get a feeling of, is it perceived as fun? Among other things, right?
Very cool. So it seems like all of you do the ideation exercises all the time, so you get trained to ideate on the go.
I don't think you can stop it again. Like if you're that kind of person, I don't think it's necessarily a choice of. I don't know with you guys, but just comes when you are. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, another question. Have you had a situation when you missed the blockbuster, thrown away on early stages, or refused a partnership, but someone finished it, completed, and it was a hit? What will you do differently now if you had this situation?
I guess everyone had it.
Yeah, I think that's very.
Tell me
That's very common.
stories and your take out. What you learned from it. What you began to do differently after that.
I guess I could tell, like with ABC Runner, right? Right before that, we made this baby game, and it's always hard to say in hyper casual, but I'm pretty sure we're the first who tested like a weird baby feeding game. It's some years ago, right? And it had really, really crazy CPI. And then suddenly everyone, like we were a bit slow around it and didn't know what direction to go in. And then suddenly everyone, all the big publishers had made one and semi-scaled it. And it's like, the only thing we could really do is like, okay, we went in and actually looked at their version history on Apple and like, how fast are they? I mean, there gotta be something we're not doing right here. And we saw how fast, that was Rollick back in there, how fast they were, like, whoa, we need to step up this like game. So there was also when the CPIs were different, right? So it was very much that CPI chasing game back then. Yeah. But I guess there's nothing really to do other than to be better and faster than the others. I don't know, with you guys.
Thank you, Raleigh. Who else can comment? Please tell me the story.
I think that let's put numbers in it. I mean, the chances to make a hit are very low. I mean, somewhere less than 1%. Okay, so if you're making 100 games, then you might be lucky enough to have one hit. And so most of the cases are, as you described, you think you have a hit, you see good potential in the beginning. Sometimes you even pass the marketability test successfully with extremely low CPI, but then you realize that the LTV is not reaching like, or the day one retention is not 45%, or day 7 retention is not 15%. So, and again, the game ends up with nothing. So, again, this is, you know what, I'll tell you a story. In the beginning, we were a studio. I had a studio called Drastic Fun. We tried to publish games, and we faced this situation, and then we realized, okay, there is something broken here. I mean, we need to fix it. No way that 99% of the games are developed. A lot of efforts was invested there, and they're doing nothing. So what I would do in such a case now, in a publishing perspective, I would give it another chance. Depends based on the performance, based on the performance with the other publisher. I mean, we want to understand why it didn't succeed. What's the reason that it didn't ended up published? If it's something we can fix, maybe we should just try first in different markets or different marketing channels, stabilize the CPI. It gives us more time to generate more creatives and try to find out what is the best market for that fits best for this game. And so yeah, this is the story. Unfortunately, for 99% of the games.
Thank you so much, Nebih.
Exactly, like I agree. That's why I said like everyone must have faced it at some point of time. But I cannot say maybe a blockbuster example, but we've got 2 soft launches in our portfolio, which have been later developed by some big publishers. And those 2 games, like one of them was Dr. Portal, I mean, by another name, Portal Master, and another's name was Trivial.io. Like it was a trivia game where we had these first example of sharks eating ragdolls if you answer them wrong. It was the first example, and we came up with that idea in our office. And after a while, I've seen some trivia games which are using like sharks eating ragdolls if they answer wrong. And not a blockbuster, but we got these 2 examples which we always think that if we went back and changed a little bit, tweaked a little bit on the games, they will become a hit definitely. But every now and then, when we release our games from our test accounts, we see that copycats are coming in no time. Like I don't know if they are copycats or not, because in sometimes I look at their release date and it's exactly the same date or even before what we have done. So I think there's a same frequency between all idea makers that's going on at the same time. That's I don't know who is giving these ideas, but even like talking with some friends in the game industry, when I try to say, oh my God, I came up with this idea, and he or she says, I also thought about this, but there was no such game. So it happens that you come up with some same ideas, and we see that huge publishers even fight with the same category. We've seen it in Overloaded, for example, which was named Overcrowded or some other name by another publisher between Rolik and Voodoo, I guess. So there are always cases like that, and at the end of the day, this is again coming back to basics, like natural selection in this industry, which we should all adapt. And faster one wins. Like I don't know, I've never done a copycat in our studio from another publisher, but who knows? Maybe you come up with the same idea and you develop at the same time, and you make it a hit, and you always get trends from other games and implement them in your game. So it at the end of the day may look even equal from a different publisher. It may even be the same product at the end of the day, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Thank you so much. Okay, I would also appreciate if you can tell a little bit more about routine and instruments used on the regular basis in your company to increase the probability of the blockbuster produced or released by your company. There is a number of things already mentioned during today's discussion, like constant ideation process and analysis, watching the market and competitors. Is there something else you do on a regular basis or as a constant process to increase the probability of blockbuster released by you or with you?
I think the A/B testing, both of you also, I don't know if you're looking for more concrete tool. We sort of build our own. We have, without game analytics and Amazon, we wouldn't have the whole data system we have, so we wouldn't be able to track our game. Like that's like part of our in-house marketing team, right? Having built that, that's very important for us. We use a lot of Unity solutions as well to build different game tools and modules, etc. That works faster, and cloud building and Slack and Monday.com. I think the craziest tool I have, which is always fun to mention, is the one called SmartLook. I don't know if you guys know it. It's like an SDK you can implement in the game. That then, I don't know if it's a little shady, right? But it is legit. And then it records the screens of the people who play and creates a heat map. So of course I cannot see who it was who played, but I can see a woman on 60, for example, played this game, and I can see where she pressed and how she interacted with the app. So for example, if there's a feature I don't understand why it's not working, that's the way to get insights. Also in casual, we noticed something called Playtest Cloud, which is like a service thing where you can, there's others as well, where you buy real players in the US or wherever country you want, and they play your game. And instead of you getting a CPI and retention, they record the session and tell you like what they think about and how they interact with it. I wouldn't go with that alone, but it can be a nice add-on in figuring out player behavior from our perspective.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
I would add to this first, really, thank you. I learned from you about the Smart Look feature. I didn't know it before. And I would add that, again, A/B testing is the basic thing here in order to improve. And together with A/B testing is remote config. We want to make sure that almost everything we can will be controlled remotely, if it's the level sequence or features that we want to turn on and off. So we don't want to deal with the hassle involved in launching, release a new version to production. So in order to avoid this hassle, we manage almost everything we can remotely using remote configs.
Thank you so much, Nebih.
I want to thank Riley for the Smart Look example. I actually really appreciate and think it's really a great tool if you want to see what you talked about, like interaction between apps. We use Figma mood board for Figma as a mood board, for example. I can give you that example. I don't know if you know Figma, like it's a tool to spread out like different type of designs. It's actually not used for that, but we use it for that way. Like we just stick images and make a mood board for our game. This is after the ideation phase, of course, and we try to come up like with the visuals of the game, like what color palette we should use, what the UI should look like, and what the level structure is going to be, and the sitemap of the game. Like if you press setting button, what kind of a screen you will face, or what kind of pop-up will you face. This kind of thing. We use Figma, and of course we also do a lot of A/B tests. When I mentioned the bridge race and color matches update phases, what I really meant there was A/B tests. Of course, we've done at least more than 300 different variants for bridge race from day one, and each of them were tested separately, and we always decided to go on with the best performing A/B test variant, of course. And in that aspect, before going on the A/B test, we use the manual methods a lot, of course, and testing and Q&A is our best practice. We always tested, myself as well, like we as a studio, we always test all the games on our own and try to find the bugs and what we can do. And that's, if you consider it a tool on our development phase as well. So yeah, basically we try to make the performance and gameplay experience as best as possible with these tools.
Thank you so much. I would appreciate if you guys could also name the tools you use for A/B testing. The best tools you know. What do you use?
So we're using Firebase, which is not the best tool, I must say, but we are using Firebase together with BigQuery in our in-house BI tool that we developed in order to cover the performance of Firebase.
Thank you.
We have gone with the game analytics setup. They have this really cool thing called Data Suite. So also if you have a studio where you don't have like a backend as we do, they can help you build it. So that is combined. They have a thing called data raw export. That combined with Amazon creates like the backend for it. And then we have built our own A/B test system around it. Game Analytics has a solution, but we have built some extra stuff to make it fit. Right now, our is not remote. There was actually a long discussion. We had, should it be a server solution or not? And there's like different positive and negatives, but maybe we can talk about that later. Because we had a very interesting scenario where we wanted the first screen on the game to have a different screen, actually a little inspired from your bridge race, where you had the, I think it was something like you could watch an ad to get extra help with the level, so like a pre-game booster. I think we had an issue with actually testing it on the first screen due to the server, because the server solution found it after the first screen. But I definitely think the server solution is the right one to go with in the long run. But yeah, to make it short, game analytics and ABS, and then building our own A/B test up around it.
Very cool. Thank you, Nebih.
As you know, we work with Supersonic and their SDK integration, which we find really helpful. And they're using Firebase and Game Analytics again, and some tools by Iron Source, of course. So yeah, we depend on them.
Thank you so much. It's time for the final word. I would appreciate if you could give your top 5 tips to your colleagues in game development and publishing on what to do, where to look at, how to, what to concentrate on. Please, your top 5 tips.
I will start with my top 5. So I think that monitoring the market deeply, as I already described there earlier in this session. Second is to choose the right publisher that has the highest potential for you as a studio to build a successful business at the end of the day. Third one is, we didn't speak about it, but don't fall in love with your game. I mean, ignore gut feeling. We talked a lot about A/B tests, so it comes together with ignoring your gut feeling and don't fall in love with your game, although you invested a huge amount of time on it. learn. The fourth one is learn from any test. I mean, even if the test result is bad, even if the game is not successful anymore, at least you want to move forward to the next test or to the next game that you will work on after you learn something. So focus on these questions. Like ask a lot of questions about the performance. And I think that the fifth one will be to focus on creating full games, not just prototypes. I mean, by doing so, you will be able to optimize it. Of course, it must be with a good hint that you're in the right direction from the very beginning, but make the next step. I mean, convert the prototype into a game, because you might find that it can be profitable. It can worth it. So that's one thing that.
Thank you so much.
That's very wise words. Mine was probably maybe a little bit more soft, but I would just quickly say having focus. I think being focused on the thing you're doing is super important. Working fast as well, and having fun while doing it. I think especially in this entertainment is very essential. And it's been talked a little bit, but then play tons of games and dream big. I mean, that will be my 5 short ones.
Thank you so much. So lovely. Nebih?
I would say following market trends, as we talked, like we have to know what's been done and what can be done in the future as a first thing, and try to find the gaps in the industry, and holding on to a unique mechanism as a second, even if it fails in the first time, because then it may disappoint, but you still have a unique mechanism if you know it's unique. And third, create a daily varied information feed. Like you can set it up, as I mentioned, from Reddit, TikTok, or Instagram with following hashtags, or any kind of a varied information feed for yourself. And coming back to development, I would not suggest rushing the development phase like some publishers are suggesting, like creating a prototype in 3 days. Yes, you can do for some games, but if you have a really promising idea on your hands, don't rush the development phase and try to make variations out of it to test. And as a last thing, working on the soft launch by focusing a lot and updating the game and doing your best at the soft launch is the best way to make your game stand for a longer amount of time. Because at the end of the day, we know some top chart games are not doing that well after they begin in top charts. So after finding out this soft launch, focus on it a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. It was absolutely awesome and lovely to speak to you. I've learned a lot, and I hope our viewers did as well. It was really lovely and informative. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. Pretty cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.